People ask me a lot how I got started with selling rough diamonds and gemstones and like where this came from. Because if you know me from before, like you would know that 10 years ago I was not doing anything that had anything to do with what the raw stone is all about. I was working in online advertising, and before that I worked in investment banking and venture capital, like really not this kind of job. Anyway, so I got this idea from just wanting to start my own company and wanting the freedom of choosing my time and choosing my space and doing something good for the world. And I've always been a big fan of gemstones and the earth, and not just gemstones. Like I love geology and I love traveling to natural places and learning about the earth, and gemstones are just like an extension of that. I used to have a rock collection when I was a kid, and I studied minerals, and I'd just been fascinated by it but never really had an outlet for it. So I came up with this idea about the jewelry industry and how people could maybe be interested in buying stones that they know where they came from good people and people who really deserve the jobs and needed the jobs, or people who wanted to have a safe place to work, and people wanted to buy stones from a place where they know the people who mined them or cut them were in a safe place and being paid the right amount, and all of the things, even the environment, just making sure that the environment around the mines was okay. And I had this grand idea about like changing the world from the perspective of the jewelry industry, like just making sure they had a better supply chain. So I started talking to people just generally about my idea. I was doing consulting at the time. No, I was working in advertising still. I was doing ads on Facebook, games, and making games on Facebook with this company called Rock You, which actually really was fun, but I just felt like I wasn't doing anything great for the world, and I just wanted some freedom. I'm sure people who have jobs can totally understand that feeling. Like I needed to go run to the grocery store or the drugstore, and I couldn't leave. I couldn't get anything done, and just wanted the ability to leave when I needed to and be my own boss, that kind of thing. So I started interviewing people around who were interested in this ethical jewelry movement. And first people were like, who are you? Which made sense, And then some people were really like nervous about me. One guy told me that if I wanted to build a site, it would be $100,000 and I was going to fail and it was just going to be a waste of money and, a bunch of things. There were a lot of people who really told me like, nobody's going to want to buy ethical stones, like unless you're standing there at the mine when they pull it out of the ground, you don't know. And just a lot of really negative things. But the funny thing is that I noticed is that people, when they were negative, like when I brought the idea up, they were like so upset about it. Like they were like, you can't do that, just so upset. Not just like they didn't care. They actually really cared, and they cared in like a negative way sometimes. And sometimes in a really positive way, like, oh, Karen, that's such a cool idea. You should do that. But not many people were like that. Most people were like, and especially the people who were in the ethical industry, they were a little bit like, if you want this information, you need to pay me for it. Like, if you want to know anything about this, it's like, okay. So anyway, I ended up finding my way to getting introduced to this woman named Shamsa Diwani, who was the Secretary General of an organization in Tanzania. One of the people who worked in ethical jewelry gave me her information. So that was like a really lucky and awesome thing that they did by introducing me to her, because I ended up meeting her. She happened to be in California at the time. She was running this organization in Tanzania called the Tanzania Association of Women Miners. And it's a group of women who are introduced into the mining workforce in Tanzania. So mining in Tanzania is like really a men's job. Like this is something that men do, not women. And it's one of the largest employment opportunities in Tanzania and all of Africa for that matter. And women just like don't get jobs in mining. So this organization pulled together a bunch of small-scale mines, similar to the way they do in free trade, where they say like, okay, we'll pull a bunch of small-scale mines that don't usually get that much inventory. We'll put their inventory together and sell it on an international market together so that they have more opportunity. So there was that, but also we're going to hire women and we're going to train them, and we're going to train all of the workers on safety and give them a little bit of funding so that they have things like hard hats and proper tools. And then another thing the organization did was they developed a lapidary, which is a place where you cut gemstones. And they got some cutting wheels, and they taught women how to cut the stones. So Tanzania is full of different gemstones. They have like almost every single type of gemstone there that you can find. And so across Tanzania, which is a very large country, there were in TAWOMA the ability to source almost every single type of gemstone you would want in varying qualities. So what you're looking at here is actually just what's left over from my first purchase. I went and I met with Shamsa. She happened to be in California visiting her brother, who lived in San Rafael. I guess he's still there. He runs a shipping company, like for people who are moving overseas. He ships people stuff. It's pretty cool. Anyway, she was visiting her brother, and she had brought some stuff with her. And she showed me what they had and the quality of everything. And we just talked about like how we're going to work together and what it means to this whole ethical mining movement and ethical jewelry. You know, this is 10 years ago. People weren't really talking about stuff like this at the time. And she was so excited that somebody was listening and interested. And she taught me a lot about the different mines that they work with. And over time, I got a big inventory from her. It included things like tanzanites and these beautiful rubies. I had aquamarines and amethysts, like a ton of stuff. So this is what's left over. This is a bicolored citrine, just so you know what you're looking at. It's really cool. You can sort of see the side is darker, the side's lighter. The stones that you see that are this color, these are yellow scapulite. Then there are these sort of off-color browns and like dark greens. These are zircon. This is also zircon. So most of it's zircon, and these are garnets. And this is also zircon. I love the way they cut this one. It's really cool. Sort of cognac. Here's another yellow scapulite that has a cool cut. This is actually zircon. It looks like scapulite, but it's a little darker. You can tell there's a little brown. And you can tell, you know, these are not, some of them are, they're larger pieces. They're cut very nicely, but the smaller pieces like this one, if you can tell from the image, it's really off. Like it's not round. And that's because, you know, these are people who are like literally just learning how to do it and just learning at the wheel, like how to cut gemstones. So the smaller sizes are harder just because, like, imagine trying to cut by hand something smaller versus larger. It's obvious, easier to see what you're doing. So they don't cut very small pieces. The other thing is zircons and garnets tend to be really brittle stone. So a few of these have actually little breaks in them. Let me see if I can find one that has a little bit of a break. And you should just know this generally if you're ever buying like a zircon piece of jewelry or garnet, that you should have it set in a way that it's not going to get chipped, because they're just really hard pieces that chip easily. So by hard, I mean like when you hit them, they break. So sometimes things are hard and you hit it like gold and it just kind of bends or moves around a little bit, but these break. So you just have to be careful. Like a bezel setting is good for a garnet, or just something that doesn't stick up so much so you're not banging it against things, versus like the citrine and this yellow scapulite that's just going to stick around for a long time because it's a little softer of a stone. This one's also not cut perfectly round because it's small. Anyway, that's where I got started. I'm actually in the middle of a buy with them right now. It's tricky because of Corona. I wanted to go there myself, but yeah, it's not going to happen right now. And hopefully I'll be able to get some more stuff in. But if you're interested in any of these pieces, like, just message me. I don't really have so much on the site. I should put them up, but they're not expensive, and I'm busy putting up rough diamonds right now. And I thought this would just be a fun way, colorful way to tell you the story of how the raw stone got started. Shortly, this one's green and cool. Shortly thereafter, I started selling directly to jewelers these stones that came from TAWOMA, and that is what I'm still doing. And 3 years ago, I started making engagement rings, just simple ones, nothing to compete with the jewelers that I work with. They're just super simple designs where I take I allow people to choose a stone and then choose their ring design. Here's a little chip down here. I don't know if you can see. They choose their ring design and then they create it with me, and that's it. So please be in touch if you have any questions, and have a nice day.